I am your host, Reggie Chapman, alongside our guest today, Jacar Baldwin from Houston, Texas, the lead for the Houston Black Climbers United. And boy, am I excited to talk to him just based on the fact that, look, I'm not a big climber myself, so this is an opportunity for me to learn a little bit more about how it's done. He doesn't just do it inside, he's outside, he's climbing mountains. And what's really, really cool, if you go to his Instagram at jacar.climbs, he uses it as an opportunity to showcase some of his work and try and break down the barriers for Black folk, trying to get them out in the community. So, Jacar, welcome to the show, and thank you for giving us some time.
Thank you. Happy to be here, Reggie.
So tell me a little about yourself, man. I mean, how did you end up getting into climbing? Let's just get right into it, because as we know, there's a lot of Black folks that maybe sometimes don't get into this sort of thing, right? I mean, maybe we feel like there's some of this barrier entry. Sometimes people say that's a white people activity, and unfortunately, people don't realize that's just not the case at all. There's a lot of Black climbers out here. And why did you become one?
So I'm originally born and raised in Quantico, Virginia, currently residing in Houston, though. I originally got into rock climbing when I was actually at an internship up in Ohio like 6 years ago. It was random. I was paying for a gym membership, so I was like, I might as well try to maximize my gym membership. So I did all the events they offered. I did racquetball, basketball. They had a competitive tennis one. I did that too. But when I really stuck was rock climbing. They had a small little gym. It wasn't anything too crazy, but it was something that I kind of took to naturally. And then I ended up getting the attention of the people who actually worked there in the gym, and they're like, "Hey, you should come hang with us." So I did for that summer. It took me to my first time outdoors, but then I never touched rocks again until another 6 years later when I moved down to Houston, because we didn't have it nearby in North Carolina that I knew of, at least. But same thing happened. I came down here to Houston. I went in another gym. I saw this rock climbing gym that I'm now working and climbing in constantly, and I took it back up and took it serious. So here I am about 2 years in, and I'm really excited about it.
So I'm curious, man, what constitutes it as you taking it seriously? What takes it from just being, hey, this is something I do sometimes, to something that you say, hey, I need to make sure that I put in the work and I schedule an amount of time to make sure I do this every single week?
For me, that big change, a lot was just intent. People will show up in the gym on the first time, they'll kind of just play around on the wall, which is cool. You'll have a good time either way. But for me, I wanted to get better. I wanted to track my progress. There were tons of things in the gym that I could not do. I didn't even understand how I could even begin to do it. You know what I mean? So I was like, you know what? I want to take it serious and actually start trying to figure out how I'm going to send these routes that are categorically harder than where I'm at right now. And that's why I started really looking at climbing, trying to understand how climbing works and the little nuances about it, and then where I was and what I needed to do to get to those certain points. And that's when it took off.
For you, when you started, what was it about climbing that really spoke to you? I mean, when you're up there hanging and you're just trying to get better, I mean, you try a bunch of different things. Of course, climbing's hard, so I'm sure you weren't great right off the start. So what was it about this sport that kept you hooked?
For me, the thing that really kept me was this constant ability to progress. Even when you're doing very well and doing good, you can still, there'd be one little small thing that happens and it takes you off the wall. And I could do this better now. And it kind of always keeps you engaged. You know what I mean? It's a mental game. It's a physical game. And the battling between when to focus up and try hard, and when to give 20%, and here's how my body needs to be, here's where it is now, how am I going to get from point A to point B? And you do that basically the entire route, whether it's a boulder route or a sport route, using harnesses a really tall walls. That's the kind of vibe that you're on the entirety of the route, and that was really interesting and really inviting for me. And it's something that I could do anytime I wanted. Mainly for bouldering, at least. With boulder, I could do it anytime I wanted, as long as I came into the gym and showed myself I could continue to progress or work to progress every single day that I was here. So that's what kept me engaged with it day in, day out.
Well, how old are you, man?
I'm 26.
26 years old, and so you're from Houston, or you live in Houston now. You've been moving around, of course. I think for me, what I'm curious about is, did you play other sports or anything growing up? I mean, how did you know that you were athletic?
Yeah. I have a very long background of just doing sports. The most successful and longest one was actually wrestling. But I ran the gambit of the soccer, the football, the track, basketball, all that jazz. But the one that I actually honestly enjoyed the most was wrestling. And that's another one where I was I could feel myself wanting to get back to wrestling. And even when I wasn't wrestling, I was thinking about that and about moves and all that jazz. And that's what rock climbing kind of gives me the same vibe as. That's why I kind of took to it pretty naturally. And luckily, again, rock climbing you can do basically anytime you want to, which is good.
Well, I guess when you're doing sport and you're competing against a person that's right in front of you. I mean, there's nothing stopping you when you're doing wrestling. It is one on one, and this is just what it is, right?
Yeah.
Climbing is a little bit differently. It's not a really a competitive sport. So where do you kind of get that competitive nature, or do you feel like that itch is scratched when you go out climbing?
And that's the thing that I really like about climbing, because it's not you against the person. Like you said, it's very much you against this arbitrary set of walls, this arbitrary route and whatnot. So like the only competitive nature typically, unless you're doing like competition climbing, but for rock climbing, it's you versus the rock. And everybody around you can serve as a resource, can serve as a support. So it like naturally brings in a sense of community by you doing this. And that community is something that I really enjoyed, and that's what another thing that continued to get me to be about rock climbing. And I wanted others to be a part of the sport. So that's why the whole mental game, like anything that happens, is because either you did not prepare for this particular climb, or this climb has something to teach you, right? So ultimately, that's why you always do a lot of. That's why there's lots of different styles, lots of different types and route sets, and so on and so forth. So it continues to create and define new opportunities for you to explore how your body moves and works under these new conditions.
Of course, we're going to get into the organization that you lead, Houston Black Climbers, but I want to ask about you personally. When you hop on your Instagram account, it's very clear what you like to do. You know what I mean? I think you do a really good job of showcasing your work on your account. I mean, you've really figured out social media in that way, where you've got the captions and you've got the hashtags, you've got the thumbnails. I mean, you've got it figured out. It's just trying to grow. Why is it important for you to try and take some extra effort to make sure that your climbing is shown on social media and that you can show other people that you're doing it?
So the biggest thing for me, like if you go to any of my personal accounts, I'm not very active on socials. But the thing that made me start my climbing account, and then I've been very active in trying to showcase this world of climbing to other folk, is mainly because I didn't see people like me in the gym. When I started, it was just me. Even now, some of the days, day in, day out, it's still kind of just me on the wall climbing by myself with people who look just like me. And I didn't want others to have to do that. You know what I mean? And it wasn't until I went online to where I know that I'm not the only person who's off cover who's climbing and trying to progress in my climbing as an athlete. Um, so through my battles of both successes and losses, projects, things that I'm still working on in real time, I'm able to show the wide variety of experiences that can be available for you for climbing if you choose to do so. And that's what really pushes me to do that. I just want to show that if you want to, this is for you. Here's ways you can do it. Here's ways you can train. Here's ways you can get stronger. Here's ways you can have fun and try new engaging different types of styles of climbing. Like right now, I'm on a big sport climbing kick for sake of like getting better as an endurance and longevity style of climbing. And I'm sharing my process of going through that and how my training and self-training in this case, because I don't have a coach, I don't have a trainer or anything. I'm just teaching, learning in real time, and then trying to implement it. And I'm sharing what I know and hoping that people are engaging with that. And I felt like people have been. I've been meeting a lot of people, connecting with a lot of people, and it's been really cool to see, especially a lot of people of color, which is really good, doing really great things in this sport.
Yeah, I mean, that was really my next question. What is that feeling like when a sport that you started and you didn't see a lot of people that look like you, to finally see more people like you and know that you had a part in that? I mean, what is that feeling like for you?
It's inspiring, you know what I mean? Because you like see, if you're trying something new, you can see how good others are, but you don't really have that connection with the people like who are sitting next to you. You know what I mean? So you like, I didn't know anybody rock climbed who was like me at all, but then now I look and I see all these people who climb way longer than me, like 20 years, and I'm like, where have you been? Like, how have I not heard about this sport? And have not seen people doing this like me before. So now that I see them, and some of them I know, I'm friends with now, like I look up and hope to inspire and push people as much as they do to do this sport at a high level if they want to. But if you want to just do it casually, I want to be able to give you the means of doing so. And thanks to all the people that I've connected with, I've found the ways, the means, and the community here to help me in wanting to push myself to help others as well.
Of course, you've got your climbing page, but you also have the page Houston Black Climbers, which is the group that you are the lead on. Tell me a little bit about that. How did you kind of get involved with that? And as somebody that's only been in the climbing space for the last couple of years, how did you become a lead, and why was it important for you to try and take over?
Yeah, in the grand scheme of climbing, I'm still technically very new.
Yeah.
Climbers get like very solidified around like year 5. I'm on year 2, going into 3. When I first started climbing again, I was by myself, but I met this young lady named Marissa, and she had shared with me this organization or this community, this group that she had started. But life takes people different ways. You know what I mean? And though I knew about the group directly from her, outside of that, I didn't really get much word on it, and I really value exposure, especially for minorities or people who don't have the opportunity to do this, into certain things, whether it be with like STEM related things or like that you said things that people deem to be white or not for people of color. I really want them to get a chance to just try it. You know what I mean? I don't want you to just fully invest. I don't want you to really go full straight to rock climbing. You know what I mean? I want you to just get your chance to try it if you want to. If you're curious, even if you have a little inkling, I want you to get the opportunity to try that. And thankfully, I was like, I want to support you and help you to get this going. Because right now, I'm the only person who knows about it, and I only know because I asked. I think a lot of people would find value in this sort of thing, and I want to do my part to help you. So what do you need? So first things first, her and I talked. We got very active. We got us continually going somewhere. We got our name out there, got things printed, flyers, all that jazz, connected to gyms. And then as she transitioned to going more towards her law degree that she wanted to do, I then took the reins and got us a lot more active externally. So I have a consistent time frame when we meet at our gym. We have a thing set up with the gym to have a very discounted rate. Climb for 2 hours. I'm a coach as well at the gym as well, so I give you one-on-one coaching. If you want to take it serious, I can give you some pointers. If you want to just be comfortable on the wall and be safe and have a good time, I'll give you enough quick little 30-minute chill stuff and have you have fun next hour and a half. And
Yeah.
people, young, old, people who think they can't do it, every single person who has come into this gym and worked with me has gotten up a route and enjoyed themselves. No person has gotten hurt yet through an event with us. And they've all left with a smile on their faces. And it makes me really happy that people have gone out of their way to try this. And it makes me even happier that they actually enjoy themselves too. So it's something I really hope to continue to grow and continue to have happen to people.
God, that's awesome, man. I'm glad it's working out so well for you. Look, I got to ask you this. So we've got to get into the nitty gritty of this, right? So there's
Yes.
you climb indoors, and there's also bouldering, right? Those are two separate deals, I assume. Like I said, I'm a novice. This is an interview for me. I mean, some people are listening, but I'm the one that really wants to know this information.
Got you. So I would say there's two main types of climbing most people are easily acclimated to. It's going to be bouldering and sport climbing. Sport climbing is what people typically think when they think climbing, meaning like the harness and they're tied into a rope and they climb a really tall wall and they come down via somebody on the ground, allowing them to come down. And then bouldering is no harnesses, no rope, and you're climbing something that's maybe 3 to 4 times your height, and then you're down climbing that.
Mm.
Bouldering is what I do because it's accessibility wise. You can do it anytime by yourself. You don't need others nearby you, and you can still have that level of intensity if you want to. But with sport climbing, it's like a whole nother battle. It's like a sprint versus a marathon sort of vibe. To where boulders are typically very short routes compared to what sport climbing could be, but you need a lot more equipment to do sport climbing. But a lot of people typically they come into the gym thinking they're expecting the sport climbing, and then they don't see any rope, and it's like really short walls, and they're like really confused and taking it back. But it's just a different style. But you can do this both indoors and outdoors. You can do bouldering indoor, outdoors, same sort of thing. You just said you'd be climbing like you said a rock, or you can also sport climb indoors or outdoors. Whereas the outdoors takes a lot more foundational things put in place by people who are developers developing the routes, cleaning the routes, drilling into the walls to put in the routes. That's a lot more complicated. So we typically stick to indoors, but every now and again, every summer, we have like an outdoor excursion we'd like to try to go on and get people to go to with a very well-developed area. But that takes a lot more time, a lot more logistical planning and whatnot. But still definitely something you should worth trying if you ever get opportunity.
Dude, what freaks me out about it, right, is if when you're out there on these boulders, right? I mean, you said you could go do it alone, and I'm sure that that's fine for you. But I'm looking at these boulders, man. If I slip and fall, or like I'm gonna have some sort of hesitation, like if I fall, I'm gonna get hurt. You know what I mean? If I don't have things set up for me, is there has there been a moment where you thought, yo, I could really get injured here? Like it might be a wrap for me. Do you have a moment like that where you got really actually afraid of what happened?
Yeah, both indoors and outdoors, that can happen. Gotten pretty, I got pretty, I'd say I got pretty good at climbing pretty quickly. So my range of things that I can climb got a lot bigger. And when things get harder, the holds get typically worse or farther away, and the movements get a lot more intense. You know what I mean? So whereas there are climbs in a gym you could do right now. For anybody who typically is curious, I say if you are able to climb a ladder, you can very much get on a route inside of a gym that's well set for people who are trying to get into climbing.
Right.
Absolutely can. However, when you get to a certain level, they got to make things interesting. They got to introduce new movement. They got to introduce new body positionings. They got to introduce this more. Instead of just pulling to this hole, I want you to jump to it and I want you to catch it. You know what I mean?
Oh man, yeah.
My most recent time where I got like really, really scared is when I was out in Bishop, California. I was out in Bishop with a group out there, a group of friends that I was meeting. And this route was probably the biggest thing I climbed outdoors, like ever. And Bishop, California is known to be like really windy. So I'm on this big route on this new place by myself, just climbing. I don't really have that many spotters because it was like a little bit of like a media sort of thing. Climbing this wall, and you just hear like wind just blowing. Like I'm over here focused on trying to not fall, and then I could just hear this wind just blowing into my face, and then the sun's beaming at me, and I'm just like, I'm really scared right now. And this wasn't something that was like at my limit, you know what I mean? This is like I've climbed up to V10 outdoors and indoors now, and that route was like a V5, V6, I think. But I was freaking out. That thing was tall. And I was stressed, I was worried. I had to really like compress in real time, calm my nerves, trust my instincts and what I've built over this 2-year time frame to really make sure I don't fall. And if I do fall, I do so in a very controlled manner. Luckily, I didn't. I was able to do the route. I sent the route on one go, but that one go was a rough one. So as soon as I got to a nice ledge, I took myself off the wall. I quickly stuck out, regained myself, took my time, then I finished the route, and I was all good. And that one is called a bowling pin sit in Bishop. Really cool route. I'm not doing that again, though. That was one where I was like, I did my one, I sent it, I'm cool with it. I'm not going to touch it no more. And sometimes it's like that. You do a route, and you're like, I'm glad I did it. I'm not going to do that
again. That fear kind of comes into your heart, huh?
Yes, like, it shocks you. It gets you. And you realize real quick, you're like, oh, I'm high off the ground. I gotta send this route now, and then that sometimes motivates you to send it, and sometimes it motivates you to like, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and come down.
Well, but this is there also that aspect of like, look, I gotta get this done because
exactly.
I'm gonna get injured here. So is there that aspect too, or does that fear drive you to the next level?
A lot of times it does, or you kind of just get used to it. You know what I mean? You just kind of get used to doing this repetitive motion of fighting against yourself, and that's why it's a good battle in that respect. Like, I know I can do this route. I know what I need to do. All I need to do is put my foot here, and I have to commit off this foot to make this move. At this point forward, I'm done. And one thing about climbing, depending on how this particular style is, it could be like a crux, meaning like the crux being like the hardest part of the route.
Yeah.
But once that hardest part's done, you know that everything else should be easy after this. So I did the hardest part. You know what I mean? All I gotta do is now just finish the route. And like for me, I'm the type of person where I'm like, I don't want to do that crux again. I'm about to finish this route, and I'm not coming back down because I know what I have to expect and what's coming forward, and I know I'm capable of doing it now that I've done the hardest part of the route. So it's like this little battle that you have.
Well, look, but if let's say I'm a beginner, right? I want to get into this, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure if I'm worried about getting hurt or anything like that. What can you kind of tell a beginner that's just trying to start out? Like you said, you're a teacher. You can get people through it pretty easily. But what can you tell somebody, or what do you tell people to make sure their nerves are fine when they're getting up on the wall for the first time?
For the very first time somebody walks in, the first thing I'll have them do, I want you to just come with me. I'll take them with me. I'll walk over with them. I want you to just touch this hole. for most gyms, especially commercial setting gyms, they will have either a grade, like either grade group or grades in general, is telling you how hard this climb should be, right?
Yeah.
For our gym, every single hold that's purple is going to be very easy, very introductory, and they set that on purpose. So I'll literally take them up with me. I'll have them put their hand in the hole. Feet stay on the ground where you're comfortable, but just put your hand in this hole, and I'll ask them how it feels. Every single person will be like, oh, this ain't too bad. And already they're like loosening up a little bit, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm like, cool. So now I can go ahead and grab the next one, right? Just take it one step at a time. You don't have to send every single time you touch a wall, you know what I mean? You can climb up and climb back down. I've had 60-year-old people come up with me and they're like, I don't know about this. But then slowly but surely, as I show them, like, this is very comfortable. This can be as easy or as hard as you want it to be. You don't have to send every single route. You don't have to go to the very, very top every single time. All I care about is progression. Every single person can progress up a route. And if you progress enough times in a row, now the route's done. You're like, oh, that's not too bad. Because move one might be hard for a little bit, but then you get used to move one. And then you're like, okay, let me try to do move two. And then it's move 1, 2, 3. And it continues to build that way. And then after a certain point, people be like, oh, that's not too bad. So now they get used to it. They know what it feels like. And then now they move on to something else. Only things I make sure to highlight is to not do pull-ups. You know what I mean? I'm a pretty strong person. I can't do too many pull-ups in a row. Rock climbing is very much a skill-based sport, and strength helps and supports you. So what I always tell people as well, once you get comfortable like touching the hold with your hands, now I want you to focus on using your feet to make you stand to each sort of area. Hence why I do the reference of a ladder. Because a ladder, you're not pulling a lot of times. A lot of times you're moving your feet up, and then you're standing and reach to the next ledge or whatever. Same thing with climbing when you're getting started. Once you get used to that sort of motion, then you're like, oh, I get it. And then now you can do all the purples, a lot of the easier stuff, you know what I mean? But then that's where it comes to like the slab wall versus the vertical wall versus the overhang wall. Ladders are more like slab because they're like pressed against the wall and you kind of just walk up this way. A slab is more like up, a vertical is more up, straight, and down. That one's not going to be too bad. As soon as the wall goes this way, that's where issues start happening. Because now it gets a lot harder to keep your feet on the wall. And that's where people be like, oh, this is how it gets hard. And then they get it. And now they have a good time with exploring the rest of the gym and all that jazz.
Incredible, man. Incredible. So I think as we get to the end here, I got to ask you if I want to start right now, is there a first tip? Is how do I know where to go? Where should I look? I mean, I'm in Atlanta. You're in Houston. I mean, there's going to be people all over the country watching this, right? Yep. What do you tell them to like? How do you kind of get started? Should I look for some gear? Do I just need to find a shop? What do I need to bring? What should people do to get started in this?
If you're just getting started in climbing, the first place I would look now is go to social media and look at organizations like Climbers of Color, organizations like Houston Black Climbers United, like organizations like Brown Girls Climb. A lot of them put up a lot of opportunities that work with gyms in the area, especially gyms that are like known to have like big climbing communities or whatnot, or gyms like mine, where it's a very large community. They often have a like weekly or a monthly opportunity for a discounted rate of entry, which will allow you to just try it out. Most gyms also have an ability for you to rent shoes. Shoes are important for sake of just A, comfort, and B, ensuring that you can, especially when you get to like more intense stuff or more hard, difficult things, be more precise and intentful with the placement of your feet and the power that you apply through your feet. But to just start, most times these day passes will also include these sort of shoes. So like for us, it's going to be $15 for a day pass and shoes. For me, I offer up my own chalk, and I also buy and purchase my own chalk for people to use as a coach. That way everybody's very comfortable. But at a very minimum, all you need for bouldering is a chalk and shoes. From that point forward, all you need is somebody who's willing to show you and expose you to this new world and get you very comfortable. If you're not comfortable, I don't want you doing it, to be quite honest. I'd much rather you have a good time and enjoy yourself. I'm not going to push you to send every single route. I'm going to push you to try to just, get off the ground. Start there. Square one, right? If you can do that and come back down, do that 3 more times, we're good. That's a good time. We're doing another route, you know what I mean? But for the time being, just don't push yourself unless you are okay with doing so. Because then it's going to take the fun out of it. Now it's just going to be you fighting fears. There's a difference between you enjoying pushing yourself and fighting fears for your very first time doing something. Because for me, I want you to come back. I want you to come back to the next event and the next event. I want you to meet people here, meet some friends, create this community here, and look forward to coming back. But if you're simply fighting your fears every time you're here, you're not going to have an as enjoyable time as you could. So look for those. If you don't know any, reach out to me. I will happily reach out to people in my network to try to show you and get you a good gym that we recommend. But I think bouldering is going to be a good, solid place to start for those who are just curious about climbing.
All right, man. Where can people find out more from you? How can people reach out? You said, reach out. How can people do so?
The easiest place would be through my Instagram, jacar.climbs. For those who are in the Texas or Houston area, you can reach out to Houston Black Climbers United. We also have, again, events going on monthly as well. I'm looking to try to get people outdoors as well and in nearby, near soon opportunity. So be on the lookout for that. But other than that, I just hope to see you all around. If you're ever in the area, just come down to Texas, coming down to Houston, reach out to me. I'm happy to hook you up as well and happy to show you this climbing gym.
Hey, man, it doesn't take much to get on a flight to come out to Houston, man. I'll make a trip out there, man.
I'm here for it. Let me know.
Last thing I want to ask you, man, what is next for you? What are you hoping to kind of accomplish? What is next for you both, I guess, through this and then personally and professionally?
For climbing for me, I have a lot of goals. This past season was my first time outdoors, and my indoor goals has matched my outdoor goals, which is the key thing for me. So for me, I want to push myself. I want to find my limit, and I still don't think I've found that yet. So for me, this summer, for this next season, my goal is to climb 8A plus in boulder and in sport.
Hold on. What does that mean?
Yeah, so those are grades, grades to show the difficulty of climbing.
Sure.
So right now, the highest I've climbed is a 7C plus, which is a V10. The highest, hardest bouldering route is a V16. I think there's 3 of them now in the world. But I want to climb a V12 by this next season, and I'm pretty confident that I can. I need to plan for it, and that's what my training consists of now. So I'm doing a lot of endurance training, and I'm doing a lot of power endurance training, meaning pulling really hard on a lot of moves in sequence over time. So that's what my training is consisting of, and that's my current goals. At the race to HBCU, I want to find a way to get some climbers to go to Blackout Fest. Blackout Fest is a organizational festival in Chattanooga, Tennessee that is on their 3rd year. And I want to find a way to get some folk from Houston out there.
Wait, when is that? When is that? Hold on, what is that? And it's because I know they had a Blackout Fest in in Tahoe, right? I know they do that for skiing and stuff like that. So is this a bouldering one or?
This is a climbing one, yes, and this one's particularly for bouldering, and that's in Chattanooga, Tennessee, November 1st through the 4th. And I want to get some people here in Houston to get out there. I want some people of color out there. It's a minority focused group, and there's so many people just from season 1 to season 2. So I'm really excited to see what this 3rd one's going to be, how big of an outreach we can get to get out there. But yeah, that's my current goals.
Okay, so just get better and then bring more people along with you, huh? Not a bad goal, huh?
Simple stuff. Trying to keep it simple. I want to get good. I want other people to come try it out with me.
Incredible, man. Jacar, I appreciate your time, man. Thank you so much for coming on the show. And, thank you guys for watching the Culturepath Experience. I'm your host, Reggie Chapman. We'll see you guys next time. Have a good one.
Thank you. See ya.